Hey everyone, this podcast is part of Story Mode, the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. You can support us and gain access to other great exclusive podcasts at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Ooh, baby.
Baby!
Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone!
My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
And we just watched Godzilla versus Kong.
One
That's a
will fuck.
Weird.
Oh, you see the tagline, this one will fall, but, you know. Anyway.
Yeah. God, what if it was a fuck war?
Mm-hmm.
This is our only chance. We have to take it. We need Kong. The world needs him to stop what's coming. And this child, she's the only one he'll communicate with.
I knew that they had a bond. She had nowhere to go, so I made a promise to protect her. And I think that in some way, Kong did the same.
What would that be?
I don't know, but if you build it as a fuck war, I would have to see it.
Yeah.
If
it was Godzilla fucks Kong.
Yeah, Godzilla and Kong in a fuck war. I was like, well, I must know what that means.
Yeah. When did this come out? Like Wednesday?
Yes.
It came out on a weird day.
Movies come out on Wednesdays or Fridays usually.
Yeah, that's true. I remember that from working at a movie theater. Still a weird day.
It is kind of weird. I don't know why we decided.
I'm not into it.
That's the day. It's like I remember Transformers came out on like a Tuesday.
Yeah, no good.
That's some garbage. Yeah, it was a bad.
I mean,
right out of the gate with a bad omen for that franchise.
Right. In the case of a pandemic, it's like, who gives a shit?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
What day it comes out on.
Days are meaningless.
Yeah, this is on HBO Max and in theaters. It's doing well in theaters because vaccine reasons.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost at like an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. 94% audience score. Okay, Settle down, people.
I think people were just excited.
Yeah, I think so. I think people just needed a movie you get to see in theaters and to celebrate, not being inside.
Yeah, and
that makes sense.
It's a big dumb spectacle.
It's either this or go see The Unholy.
Yeah, and I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
although I might do that after we record if it's rentable.
If it's rentable, yeah.
No, I'm not going to the theaters to see that goddamn thing.
Sitting at a 33% critic score right now. What did you think of Godzilla versus Kong?
I like this movie, which is strange, because I don't like kaiju movies.
Right.
But
we've talked about this with the Gamera podcast. Neither of us are very big fans of kaiju.
Not very big kaiju fans, even though I did grow up watching a lot of them.
Right.
And I had a lot of affinity, I guess, for Godzilla. Obviously, he's a character that appeals to little kids. He's a big dinosaur that screams radiation. That's awesome.
Right.
And King Kong is one of my favorite movies.
Sure.
So I like both of these characters, and just getting to watch them have a WWE wrestling match in this movie.
It's extremely fun.
Was fun. Yeah, it's a fun movie.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts is this movie's okay, and by okay I mean it's an average, which is that it's about 30% awesome, and then the rest is like fairly boring, and that averages to me to being okay, because when this is good, it's really good. It's really fun.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just so much that I don't care about in this.
Yeah.
It's most of the movie is humans talking that we don't care about.
Yeah, and there's people arguing on the Schmeeds every time one of these movies comes out, whether it be this or like Transformers or something like that, where invariably the argument gets made where it's like, well, we just take the humans out, we don't care about them, or vice versa, where it's like, well, you realize that a movie with just big screaming monsters was going to be hard to engage with. And I generally agree with the latter, except for a movie like Godzilla vs. Kong, where they're two pop culture figures that people already like. Like people are already attached to these characters.
We watched this last night and we were talking about it in this context.
Yeah.
Because the movie, the only character who you could call a protagonist is Kong.
Yeah.
And here's the thing is like, ultimately this series, because this is probably the last of this series before maybe a reboot.
Probably.
I put it firmly in the same drawer as the Planet of the Apes remakes, where it's like, did you watch those?
No, I've still never seen them.
They're the definition of fine. And that's the thing. The first one of those is terrible. The first Planet of the Apes. And then the other two are acceptable, but ultimately they've just sort of fallen through the cracks because no one cares.
Right. It's not a property that really has a lot of, like, not a huge fandom.
And for the most part, they all have this same, like, dull aesthetic where everything is gray that I would say a lot of these movies also had. Although I will say these movies, color-wise, tend to be prettier, even the bad ones.
Yeah.
But they still sort of, for the most part, fall into the place. And this felt bittersweet because it's like the last half hour of this movie is everything these should have been.
Yes.
And Planet of the Apes, by the way, point of view of a ape that doesn't talk. So like they can do it. They can make a movie from the perspective of a animal, right?
Yeah, it's been done.
And again, this movie, it seems to be from Kong's point of view, and then it also isn't. And that's like where it hurts. It felt like Adam Wingard, the director, who people would know from The Guest and
You're Next,
and then a bunch of stuff that people sort of stopped caring about. The Blair Witch remake, or sequel, rather.
Yeah.
Death Note.
Yeah, that's a bad one.
Wingard, I really like his early films, and I'm wondering if he ran out of steam or if he just likes money.
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
I don't know. He's the one next to like Kong Skull Island where they went outside of the box, and I kind of actually I like that one a little bit. Like I like how weird it is.
Kong also has some really good moments.
Yeah,
I think because both this and Kong realized that it needs to be fun, but it didn't commit enough.
Yeah,
still.
Yeah. The point I was going to make is I think the director of that, whose name I forget, I think it's Vought Roberts or something, and then Wingard for this one. Those are the two films in Legendary's Monsterverse franchise that had the most, that felt like they had the most personality. Yes.
Generally, these have been disasters. It feels like, it reminds me of like Shazam on DC, or I guess Aquaman, where it's like, you guys seem to know what people might want.
Yeah.
But you keep gravitating towards this like weird seriousness or like this like convoluted, like tons of, like this has, how many fucking characters are in this?
I don't know, but I saw a really great tweet the other day where somebody was like, I'm in like minute 5 of Godzilla vs. Kong and they just introduced the 13th character. What is this, Magnolia?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's perfect.
There's a lot of characters, and it's like when you're watching the movie, it's so clear that a couple of them didn't need to exist. It's like, well, why are these two separate characters? They should be the same person.
Alexander Skarsgård, as I love him. He's great.
He's great.
He doesn't need to be in this movie. He has no purpose in this movie.
Not really. He could have just been Rebecca Hall. They should have been the same character. The two bad guys should have been the same character.
Right. There's a lot of characters that are like in here because they were in previous movies. What's his name there?
Kyle
the dad?
Chandler. Yeah.
Kyle Chandler does nothing.
No, he doesn't do anything. He's
Millie
in
Bobby
2 scenes.
Brown doesn't do anything. Most of the human characters literally just stand there and say exposition.
Yeah.
they don't have, I don't know anything about any of these characters. That's the other thing. Millie Bobby Brown, she's been here with us for 2 movies.
I couldn't tell you a single thing about her personality. I did like her scenes in the movie though, because she's got like that. They were the best group. Like they would cut between 2 groups of people, and one of them was her, Julian Dennison, and Brian Tyree Henry, and they were the group that was like the most fun to watch.
They had the most going on.
Yeah.
And so, like, it still feels like it's weird because I have more faith in Adam Wingard. Did he write this?
No, actually.
Oh, okay. That actually explains a lot then. Because it just it feels like there's this brand of movies where, like, you know, they take a really good director who's known for really good indie films and they sort of like smother them in a franchise. And you see these little bits of them getting to do like what we love them for.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this felt like, is it felt like they like the last fight and little bits and pieces. They like somebody on the set knew, or someone in the writing process knew, like this needs to be fun, but it kept getting snuffed out by a producer or somebody who's like, no, it needs to be like the others that we made.
Yeah. I mean, there's definite clunkiness in the writing. For sure. Yeah. But you see it, you see Wingard's kind of fingerprint on the fight scenes. Like there's they're so WWE. But there'll also be like cool little details, like when Godzilla smashes through that battleship and the anchor hooks to him, so he's dragging half of a ship behind him.
Oh yeah.
Kind of like that part in Jaws. I was like, that's a cool idea. And it's just it doesn't mean anything. It's just like a simple visual thing. But
yeah, I mean,
like,
when they punch each other,
and then when they punch each other, oh my fucking
good.
God.
That's where this movie really fucking shines, because you bring up WWE, but like for me it's a fist fight. It's like 2 drunk people. Right, it's how these animals would fight, I guess. Yeah.
It's I'm talking about a specific genre of WWE match. It's when like the 2 when you get like the 2 big guys, like a Hogan and Andre, because all they can really do is kind of throw meaty forearms at each other.
Godzilla King of the Monsters, I would argue, also had that element. It had the fighting it had done pretty well. It's another...
I've seen that movie 2 or 3 times, and I can't remember like a single detail about any of the fights.
The ending fight is they're trying. They're trying to be cool. That's the director of Krampus.
Yes.
So like this series has a history now of taking these directors and then kind of squeezing them into this fucking box. But yeah, I would say this is better than Godzilla versus or King of the Monsters, for sure.
Yeah.
But there's just this. I don't know if it's just that kaiju films inherently don't work, or that they just haven't figured it out. But like, you would agree that most of this movie is pretty dull, right? Like, is just characters we don't care about going from A to B. And like none of the plot really makes too much sense.
No, it sure doesn't.
They have to drill into a rock in the center of the earth to then download the data from the rock that they knew was there because they detected the data already.
Yeah, there's a whole convoluted thing where it's like they know there's this energy source in the center of the earth because they have these instruments, but they need Kong to lead them there. It's like, well, why don't you use the same thing that told you the energy was in the center of the earth?
I feel like it's still going by like Roland Emmerich sensibilities, where it's like, we need an ensemble.
It's not just Emmerich, it's disaster movies.
Movies,
like
yeah.
Earthquake and The Towering Inferno and Airport and all that shit.
All these moving pieces, to the point that they do, one of the worst things they do is they have a character who has a flask of alcohol, and it like means something. I forget what. It has to do with like his dead wife.
It was a gift from his wife, yeah.
Yeah, and that doesn't really go anywhere. Like, it doesn't inform him as a character.
Not really at all. No, it seems actually kind of contrary to his character.
Yes, and it all amounts to a part where we should probably now say fucking Mechagodzilla is in this movie.
Mechagodzilla is totally in this movie.
And they're in the control room for Mechagodzilla. Mechagodzilla is beating up Kong, and I don't know.
Mechagodzilla is beating the Christ out of both of them. Like
Mechagodzilla is a delight.
he literally takes Godzilla like post to post, like in wrestling. He
Yeah.
smashes his head on like 4 different buildings in sequence. It's incredible.
Yeah. By the way, when I first watched this, because I've seen this twice, because we watched it on Friday, the first time I almost shut this movie off because I was tired, because it was just dragging on. And like nothing, like there was that one boat fight that was fun.
Yeah.
And then for like an hour, nothing happens. And they're just doing like the Hollow Earth stuff. And so I almost shut it off because I was like, yeah, I'll pick this up another night or watch it. And then Mechagodzilla showed up and it was like, oh.
It's like, oh, we got a movie now.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Showed up way too late, but like still, it showed up. But going back to the flask, so they're in the control room and Mechagodzilla's beating up Kong, and then they're like, what do we do? And one of them is like, I know, and takes the flask and pours it in the computer, and that like briefly short circuits Mechagodzilla so Kong can beat him up. And that's their contribution. And it was so sweaty and unnecessary. You could cut the entire part out of the movie because he literally like short circuits for like 2 seconds. And it felt like a producer note, which was like, these characters need to matter.
Right. They need to impact in some way.
Yeah.
Because the other group, they're basically the two groups of people act as advocates for the two monsters, right? Because otherwise we wouldn't really understand that Godzilla's not really the antagonist.
Right. This is about, they sort of frame Godzilla right at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard to remember the plot. Godzilla attacks a facility of this corporation that's making like Super Godzilla stuff. That apparently is drilling into but we don't know that right away.
We don't know that right
They're
away.
They're drilling into the Hollow Earth. They introduce like all this space age technology that wasn't in the other films.
Nope.
And that's a little fucking jarring.
I kind of was into it. I was digging the whole Fantastic Voyage, Journey to the Center of the Earth vibe, like the Harryhausen vibes.
Yeah,
of
I
the
was
Hollow
into
Earth.
it. My complaint isn't that it's here, it's that it wasn't in the previous films. That should have been an element, I think, in these films.
Yeah, it should have gone buck wild a lot earlier, I think.
Yeah.
Like
They should have done.
Yeah,
sorry.
I was just going to say, getting to this, I mean, I like this movie better than Dark Fate, but it was like when we saw Dark Fate and it was like, fuck, man, this is like, they finally have an okay movie, but they've lowered the quality of the brand so much that it's like too little too late. And it's like, this movie's the same thing where it's like, well, this is the fucking shit you should have been doing. Like, what?
Too little too late is the best way to put it, because this movie gets really good in the last part of the movie, and it's like, oh, the entire series should have been at this level. You've wasted so many films trying to figure out the tone that you need to get to.
They really did, man. Yeah, that first one is so serious. Then King of the Monsters gets a little cheeky, but it's still very serious. Yeah, and the big thing they don't introduce is like just the over the top shit. The Mechagodzilla is like the first over the top element we've really seen, where it's like, I don't know, they should have been in space. They should have tried to get the rights to Gamera. They should have done everything they could. They should have had him fight Frankenstein. Like, yes. I don't give a fuck. I would spend $19.
Yeah.
At least to go see that movie.
Yeah, they needed to do what Marvel had figured out with stuff like Guardians, where they're like, lean into it. Like, absolutely lean into it. They needed to look at the works of like James Gunn and be like, how are these big companies that are clearly making money with this over the top bullshit? Like, how do we do that? And they should have been doing that from fucking movie one.
Right. It's like the only thing people are trying to imitate about Marvel is the interconnected universe. And it's like, guys, that the reason that's working is because all of these other things are working.
Yeah. Marvel's secret is that it has charismatic and fun characters.
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
Like, that's it. That's all it is, and this movie has, and these series has so many, the characters matter so little that they just drop characters between films. Like, what's his fuck from the first one? He's just gone after the first movie.
Yeah, Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah. They just drop characters because they don't fucking matter.
And fucking Elizabeth Olsen.
Elizabeth Olsen, yeah.
I continuously forget she's in that movie.
Yeah. Because it's baseline fucking it's 90s sensibility of like how to write characters, where it's like, I mean, it's not even as good as 90s, because at least in 90s, like Godzilla, they still made the characters say jokes and want things. Like, they have romances, and that woman wants to be a reporter.
Yeah,
and like
they have wants. Jean Reno just wants a cup of coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they give them quirks and personality and fun, and it's dated as hell.
And I argue that Godzilla doesn't work because
it's a bad movie.
It's a bad movie. It's the reason it doesn't work is because it didn't have a Will Smith or a Jeff Goldblum. Like, it's the exact same formula as Independence Day. It's just Independence Day had two of the most charismatic actors of the 90s.
Exactly.
And that Godzilla has Matthew Broderick.
That Godzilla, I keep putting above these, because that Godzilla at least knew what it was needed to do. It knew what it was trying to do. It was like, we need to have an ensemble of charismatic and funny people. They just didn't. Yeah, Matthew Broderick, man. Like, he's great. I love Matthew Broderick. He's not. It doesn't work.
He's not good at that.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because his most famous movie is Ferris Bueller. But
yeah, and that I would argue that movie escalates. That movie is over the top. It goes to 90s sensibilities, where they're like Jurassic Park, Raptors, etc.
Yeah.
But it knew what it needed to be at the time. And these movies, like, why would they, like, it's because the first one came out during that fucking god-awful era where it was like, oh, we want dark and gritty.
Yeah.
And then it struggled so hard to break out of that, and it never quite did. This is like, it's just breaking the seal into fun, this movie.
Yeah.
From gritty, and then it's gone, it's over. And that's, like, kind of a shame. Because this movie definitely shows us what could have been.
Right. It shows us, like, I said Fantastic Voyage earlier. That's not what I meant. What's the, like, Fantastic Island? What is it called? It's another Harryhausen, like, old-timey adventure movie with, like, a Mysterious Island, I think, maybe? I think that's it.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, this is, they should have leaned way more into that just gonzo creature feature stuff. It's like, you got Godzilla and Kong, who people just already like. It's like you don't just.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Why did it take you guys so long to figure this out? Make it less than 2 hours. That's a big one.
That in this film could have been 90 minutes. They could have cut it down.
Yeah, as it is, it's 100 minutes. So it's not that long, but
not that long. But we needed to be getting into the center of the earth a little quicker.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah. You could probably cut 10 minutes out, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. We also talked about this last night. There's weird threads in this movie, story-wise, where it feels like they were trying for something and then they didn't. There's this whole thing, and it's in the trailer, which is Kong's relationship with this little girl who knows sign language, this deaf girl, which is why Skarsgård is less necessary than... I forgot her name.
Rebecca Hall?
Rebecca Hall, thank you.
Right, because she has the relationship with the girl.
Exactly, and there's a link there. But the little girl talks to Kong, and you think, like, oh, this is going to matter. And it doesn't.
Not really. She is just there so she can tell Kong in the last fight that Godzilla's not the bad guy. It's Mechagodzilla.
That's
once the only purpose she serves.
Yeah, it's once again the humans serve, like, weird plot maintenance and not...
Exactly. Like, they're not really characters.
They do this thing where they bring Kong to Antarctica, and they're like, get in the hole. Get in this hole, Kong. And they're like, how do we make him get in the hole that brings him to the center of the earth? And they're like, tell him that his family's there. And they're like, but that's a lie. We can't tell him that. And they're like, do it anyway. And Kong doesn't want to get in the hole. And they tell the little girl to sign to Kong, like, your family might be in there. And then he immediately goes in, and he ultimately doesn't find his family, but he doesn't seem upset. And then they just drop that.
Yeah, I guess,
and it's stuff like that where it's like, what were we even doing?
Yeah,
why even have it? Like, because you can see a version of the movie where he gets upset, he scares the little girl. Like, and then the fight happens and like the little girl's in danger or something, he saves her. Like if Kong's the protagonist, basically they do this thing where they make him want to go home. And so they give him an actual want, but then they don't have him they don't give him an arc or anything that he learns or grows. He just goes to his weird his weird giant fucking home in the center of the earth, seems satisfied enough.
Yeah.
And then just fights Godzilla and Mechagodzilla, and then the movie ends, and it was like they didn't really there's a lot of starts of arcs and stuff. But then nothing goes anywhere.
Yeah, Kong gets the closest thing to a complete one. Because he does get his want fulfilled. He does find his home and finds his purpose and his birthright and his legacy and shit.
Right.
But nobody else has any arc.
Yeah. It's mostly just some really fun scenes.
And that's fine. Like, that can be what the movie is. I think that should be what these movies are. They just need to do more of it, and they should have done it sooner.
Yeah, it's not enough.
Yeah.
I would say this film isn't enough. And I think, it's got one really good fight sequence.
I'd argue, too. I think the Battleship one is fun, too.
Oh, yeah, the Battleship is pretty fun. But, in terms of, above and beyond.
That end one is holy shit.
Yeah. And it'll be known for that. But ultimately, I think this is going to be a movie that, like the others, and like the Planet of the Apes, that we're all just going to kind of forget. We might fast forward to these fights,
Mm-hmm.
But there's no reason to actually watch these movies more than once.
That's probably true.
Especially the previous movies.
I think definitely the previous movies. I honestly hope we get another one. If it continues in the direction that this movie was going.
Yeah.
It's like because now they finally have shown me a movie where I'm like, I want more of that. Yeah. I didn't care about those other ones.
I'd say I wouldn't mind another one. It's sort of like if they get Adam Wingard and they learn their lesson, I just don't know if they will.
Yeah, it's so Warner Brothers in particular is been pretty bad about that.
They hate money.
Between the DC movies and the Fantastic Beasts movies, man, they're just they're doing everything they can to implode their own franchises that are billion-dollar franchises.
That's just the thing about Warner Brothers. I always try to keep in mind, from the 2000s to 2010, they were on top of the fucking world.
Yeah, they had them Harry's Potter.
They had them Harry's Potter. They had them Matrixes.
That's right, the Matrices.
They had them Dark Knights.
Them Lords of the Rings.
Them Lords of the Rings. They were on top of the world, and they were doing it through mostly gritty films.
Yeah.
Like the Harry Potters got good when they got darker. Mm-hmm. So I would argue the Lords of the Rings, they take themselves very seriously.
Yeah, those are
they're epics.
Yeah.
The Dark Knight. It's because we were in a point in society, right, where we had been, 9/11 and
escapism had a new tint to it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was all, and they did it really well. It also helped that they just had a lot of good storytellers making those series. And so they hit this point in the 2010s where Marvel showed up and was like, this is what we do now. Like, this is what we want. They were right. Marvel was nailing it, and Warner Brothers just refused to change. And so they're just doing the same thing. They're doing the same tone. I assume it's all the same executives.
Probably, yeah.
Who is like, no, this works. This works.
This is what works. This is what worked 20 years ago. Like a lot has changed.
A lot has changed. And so it's like they have to fucking beg them to have anything tongue-in-cheek or interesting or over the top. Like, even Mechagodzilla in this is taken very seriously. Which works because it's campy.
As seriously as you can take it. It's just intrinsically campy, yeah.
Yeah. That's what I mean, is that it can't help itself. It is campy, but at no point, and we don't need characters winking at the camera or anything, but at no point does anybody like the main characters, they don't like react to how fucking over the top what they're seeing is.
Yeah, I don't know if I needed that or not. Like they didn't go super serious. Like they take Mechagodzilla seriously in the sense that it is treated as a credible and real threat in the film.
Yeah.
Like you're like, oh, he fucking takes his belt off on Godzilla, Jesus.
Yeah.
Just beating his ass.
It is quite a thing.
It is a savage ass beating.
Yeah, the introduction and just the moment Mechagodzilla shows up, it's we got a movie.
Mm-hmm. Now we're cooking with gas.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need like winking at the camera because like I am a Marvel fan and I like most of the movies, but like one of the worst moments of the Marvel franchise is when Hawkeye like winks at the camera. It's like, I'm shooting arrows. Isn't that dumb? It's like, well, fuck you.
Yeah. It was what's his name?
Joss Whedon.
Like Joss Whedon, his contribution to Marvel, I would say ultimately is like the least good contribution, which is surprising because he was hot shit at one point.
He was like on fire when they hired him for Avengers.
And this is regardless of, him as a director and his personal stuff. Like ultimately he had a shtick that worked in a certain era that I feel like got old real fast. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it got dated for sure.
It was too self-aware, too meta.
Yeah, it was like too. It was too like the characters are like smarter than what's going on around them, or if that makes sense.
Yeah,
it's like every character was like, well, I'm the smartest person in the room.
Whereas the Taika Thor or like James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy, like there's a different meta being played there where they just lean into the ridiculousness.
Mm-hmm.
Where like it's like, yeah, why not have Jeff Goldblum play this character and just be Jeff Goldblum?
Why not have David Hasselhoff dancing in the end credits?
Yeah, exactly. Where it's like it's like upping the camp in this more self-aware but not like self-referencing way, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Like the characters aren't like enduring the film and then looking at you like, can you believe this shit? Like they're in it and selling it.
It's meta jokes. It's Thor hanging from that chain and then he keeps spinning around.
Yeah.
Which is like it's a meta joke. It's like, oh, that would be a problem that might happen in that moment.
Or like my favorite fucking bit in Shazam when Mark Strong's doing his supervillain speech and it cuts to whatever his name is, Shazam, and he just can't hear him.
Oh yeah, that was perfect. That was perfect. What a good bit.
Zachary Levi. Yeah.
Yeah. And these are messing with tropes,
mm-hmm.
and I do think they might get dated. We might look back on them and be like, they undercut the tension of the scenes. But I would argue that most of these movies we're talking about, the tension never mattered,
right? Because Shazam's going to win. Like the Guardians of the Galaxy are going to win. Like Godzilla and Kong are going to beat Mechagodzilla.
Exactly. So why not just have a little more fun with the way you make the plot work,
Mm-hmm.
And so like we just need more of that in these, and there's so much opportunity to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You have this whole chorus of humans who again don't really do anything. Whenever they're fighting, they just cut back to the people just watching. They don't really show these fights from their perspective. It's not supposed to be that. So like what the humans are going through is they just stand there and stare. And then every now and then they say, oh, this is what's going on. Or, oh, I have to push this button and find out this. And it's like, have them like, I don't know, make them funny.
Yeah. Do something.
Do something with them. And not like funny, like, oh, one of them's kind of zany. They do that in this, but it's just like, it's not good enough. The jokes are like, they didn't put that much thought into it. They didn't get someone who's like a comedian. This is written by 5 people.
Yes, it is.
It took 5 people to write this movie.
Uh-huh.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
That really upsets me. One of them wrote Godzilla and Kong Skull Island.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going through them right now. One of them wrote Black Widow and Thor Ragnarok.
Yes.
Come on, man. Did they not give him enough time? Man, I guess he might have just been doing the like
a pass.
The pass.
Like a joke pass, maybe.
Yeah. One of them was also involved in, let's see, Krampus.
Sure.
This might have been a more characters story by. Yeah, this is story by credit, so it probably is because they wrote King of the Monsters.
Wrote King of the Monsters, yeah.
Yeah, and then the director of Krampus also has a story by credit. One of them's one of the writers of Aladdin and Shrek.
Sure.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
I mean, the opening is straight up Shrek. When Kong wakes up and is like scratching his ass, takes a shower. Right. Fucking rules.
Yeah. And Deja Vu.
Nice.
Denzel Washington's Deja Vu.
I should actually watch that one time. That's one of the only discs I ever rented from Netflix. And that thing just sat in my house for like 7 months.
You've never seen Deja Vu?
Never seen Deja Vu.
You know what's fun about Deja Vu? I've seen that movie like 5 times. I couldn't tell you what happens in it.
It's got Val Kilmer, doesn't it? It has something to do with time travel.
Does it? It's definitely time travel, but I couldn't tell you like how it works, or how it ends.
That's fair.
I know it's using time travel to stop a terrorist thing. It's like it's got source code vibes.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm being told by IMDb that Val Kilmer is indeed in it. Same with Jim Caviezel. Huh. And Adam Goldberg.
Sure.
Okay.
Why wouldn't he be?
Yeah, I don't remember any of these fucking people. It was directed by Tony Scott, apparently.
Yeah.
Man, I can't wait to watch Deja Vu again. Every time it's like the first time, which is kind of cool.
That's interesting. Usually you have the opposite experience with something called Deja Vu.
That's true. That's very true. Nah. It's, what are we talking about? Godzilla?
Talking about Godzilla versus Kong, baby.
What else? God damn it. The center of the earth stuff.
Yeah.
What'd you think about that?
I like it. Like, that's one of my favorite elements of the movie. Like I was saying, I want them to do some more of the crazy ideas that came from this era and genre of movie making. Like, give me an island with like giant scorpions on it.
Yeah, it felt like they were setting up a ride at Universal because there's shots where it feels like you're in like one of those like a space tours ride.
I think from what I've heard, they were the studio was actually nervous about that. Like there originally was more Hollow Earth stuff. Like there was a MacGuffin they had to get down there. I
agree with the studio because I agree. I really like the Hollow Earth stuff. It didn't matter.
Not really.
None of it really mattered. It was them spinning their wheels to get to the final fight.
Yeah.
Because the way that works is that they take them to Antarctica so that they can take them to another place, and that felt weird. And then they go there, so that ultimately they can just drill this rock and set it up, and then Kong just has to get back to. And since it didn't help with a character arc, it didn't do anything. I mean, it feel like
it gave Kong something, but yeah.
I wanted more of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what they should have done is they should have put that in Skull Island, because that's a Skull Island type world, right?
I guess
it's a land of the lost.
Yeah.
I would have liked a whole movie because it was beautiful looking.
Yeah, it was cool.
I would have liked a whole movie focused on that place, but it was such an impossible element just suddenly thrown in.
Oh, I was already in that head. I mean, it's a Godzilla movie. I'm already in that headspace. I wasn't expecting that. But
yeah. I wanted more of it. Because I feel like the first Godzilla, do they ever explain where he comes from? Because the whole thing is they're like, it's off.
He's like, they say something about him being a protector, and
I think they mention Hollow Earth. I think they say like there's tunnels under the earth or whatever.
I think you're right. Yeah.
By King of the Monster, they're full on Hollow Earth. And they do the submarine down to Godzilla's lair.
Yeah.
And they keep doing these pieces of it. And then this like goes all in. is like balls deep in Hollow Earth.
Really jackhammering the Hollow Earth.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
and
pile driving it.
It's cool and all, but it was just like, oh, kind of would have been cool to see. That's what it is that the flying weird little corporate things, all that should have been in previous films and had more room to breathe.
Yeah.
Because it felt like they were doing a lot of like last minute making up for the previous films. Aesthetically,
for sure.
Yeah. Or world building wise, like this movie really world builds.
Yeah.
It just didn't earn it from the last movies.
Well, it had the benefit of not having to really explain Godzilla or Kong. So he got to add into this really bonkers element of a Hollow Earth world.
But they could have done it in pieces.
Of course they could have. Yeah.
They could have done, here's what they could have done. And this is borrowing from not a good movie, but Independence Day Resurgence, where Independence Day, they're like, all these ships crashed, and so we use their technology. And it's like, oh, that's a smart way of doing that. They could have done like what are they called? Mutos?
Yeah, the Mutos.
In the first one?
Yeah.
They could have been like, yeah, we took their blood or whatever, and we've been advancing technology. Who gives a shit why, you know? And they could have done that from 2 movies ago and kept slowly introducing things, you know? But they didn't know where this was going. It's the problem with all these movies.
They didn't really know what they were trying to make, what they were building towards.
None of them thought like ahead. So I don't know. That's a bigger problem.
Yeah, and that's fine if you're not constantly, like every movie was constantly teasing the next movie.
Right.
It's like,
that's
well,
as far as they think.
If you want to make your franchise one movie at a time, by all means, I actually recommend you do it that way.
Well, that's.
But if you're gonna do that, like if you're gonna tease where the story is going, you need to know where the story is going.
Exactly. It's like they want to have their cake and eat it too. Where they're like, they're not. You're right. They're not designing them as single movies. They want them to be franchises. It's the top-down filmmaking where they have a desired result in their head, but they don't actually do the work to get there.
Nope.
So all the extent of their teasing is, and he'll fight Godzilla next.
Pretty much,
but they haven't actually thought about how to get to that point in this movie that they're currently making.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they want to have a franchise, but then they don't write them like a franchise. And from this to Star Wars to all of the ones we've already talked about, it is amazing how many are like, yeah, we're going to make this many of them, but we won't plan them. And
right,
it's
like they came out.
That's weird.
Remember when they said they were going to make like fucking 5 Fantastic Beasts movies?
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah.
Out of what?
Anyway. For all the not needingness of avatars, he at least wrote them the sequels together.
Yeah, he's at least written them.
Yeah, at least, and that is such a depressing thing to have to say. At least they were all written in advance to make sense.
Yeah.
And this is the same. It's the other bigger problem with this series is they never just, and it's the DC problem, and it's the thing they don't learn from Marvel, is like you need like a person in charge. And
somebody needs to quarterback. Like somebody needs to be keeping track of where all these stories are going.
Yeah, so there has to be a plan. You can get different directors, you can get different writers, but you need somebody who's like, this is where we're heading, and this is the big vision of these movies, and they just don't.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Yeah, if you're trying to make a sprawling, interconnected universe franchise, then yes, you need somebody in that position.
Yeah. I think it requires a more creative role in a producing position than what they're used to. I think that's what it is, what's going on.
That's definitely...
is you have to look at the series as a story as opposed to just thinking about money.
Warner Brothers...
what's popular.
Warner Brothers in particular does feel like very, and I don't know if this is true, it's just kind of like judging by the success or lack thereof that they've had recently and kind of how their projects don't really make any sense and don't seem to have any vision. Like I really get the sense that like Warner Brothers is really full of like just old entrenched executives who've been there for decades.
Yeah.
Or it's either that or they're all just, that's the culture there. They're all still very much in that mindset, and that does not apply if you want the same thing that Marvel has.
There's so many bubbles. I think I mentioned I worked at the Universal Studios theme park, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when
did you get to meet Kong? How is he?
He's all right. He's doing all right.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to hear.
Yeah, but when you work at the theme park, you still get to be in their corporate offices. You get to hang out like in their back lot a little bit, and you just see all the behind the scenes. And one of the things that always popped out for me is how behind the scenes, how rock hard they are for their classic Universal monsters and how much they feature them. And I don't think they know that nobody cares. You know what I mean? Where like we don't care about the Wolfman. We don't. Like they don't, but they had a hit with the Mummy, and that sent them off. And like behind the scenes, they're like, yeah, everybody loves Universal monsters, and like no one's told them that that's not true. And I feel like
they liked the Mummy.
Yeah, and it's like we don't hate the Universal monsters, but you haven't, like, nobody's thinking about the old black and white movies.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, they don't have as much mind share as you seem to think they do.
Yeah, and so I assume it's like that with these companies where it's like they're in their bubble and they don't realize that this isn't what people want, and they don't understand why movies don't do as good, and they probably credit it to other things.
Mm-hmm. They always learn the wrong lesson.
Yeah, and there's clearly like younger people who are like, yeah, let's get Adam Wingard. Like people who know to do that, but aren't powerful enough or don't know to be like, but let's also not do Thundercats with Adam Wingard. Like, or if we do Thundercats, make it not gritty. For the love of God, if they make Thundercats gritty, who's making Thundercats? Do we know?
Adam Wingard.
No, I mean, what company?
I assume Warner Brothers. It's owned by
Warner Brothers?
I think it's a Hanna-Barbera property.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, no, he's Warner Brothers has him now. I mean...
Oh no. Oh, I'm seeing another story that Vin Diesel reportedly wants to be in it. So, you know what?
I think they got a movie. Fuck! Make him Panthro.
Yeah, I think they got a movie. I think if that rumor is true, we got a movie.
Oh my God! Fun. If it's just a Vin Diesel style action movie, that movie will fucking rule.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! If he he's Panthro, he's just painted gray, and he ramps a car through Mumra. Oh my God! Baby, we got a stew going.
Yeah. God, these fucking. Sorry,
but I mean, that's what you need to do. That's what we've been talking about this whole episode.
And
is you need to do shit like that.
This movie, I guess, it just reminds me of all this stuff. I just saw other headlines about how they pulled the plug on New Gods and the Aquaman spinoff.
Yep.
Because they needed to give Zack Snyder all that money.
Yeah.
Like they're making worst decisions.
Dumb, we're going to spend upwards of $70 million. That's just the number they disclosed. It's almost certainly cost way more than that. To let Zack Snyder do another version of a movie from 2017, but we can't find the money.
Yeah.
For these two filmmakers who are people of color to make interesting new spin-offs of DC films. It's like
to make
what are you doing?
It's like they're allergic to good decisions.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Like what's going on? What are they doing?
I don't know. Their phrasing of it was weird. It was like they were like these. Their statement seemed to indicate that there was a possibility the projects might get revived in the future, and that if they are, that Ava DuVernay and James Wan would still be attached to them.
That's good.
But that really bummed me out. It's just like
this
2
big
weeks 2 weeks
machine.
after they shit the Snyder cut out on us, and they're like, well,
Yeah.
we're canceling these new movies from exciting filmmakers, who aren't
Yeah.
just another white dude.
It's this big machine that snatches up fucking artists and just starts sucking them dry.
Yeah.
It's and then just doing what do they want? What's their end game?
I don't know. I know they're doing a massive strategization of their DC plans.
Oh, that's good.
So this was a part of it.
Yeah, I'd say both this franchise that we're supposed to be talking about, Godzilla vs. Kong, and the DC stuff, they just need to reset.
Yeah.
They need to reset, and they need to think back and be like, what worked and what didn't, and let's focus on what worked. I just don't know if they know what worked. That's the thing.
Yeah. That's
Like, I honestly think there's an executive looking at people commenting, being like, oh, Godzilla vs. Kong, that ending was amazing. And those people are probably thinking, I don't get it. The other movies also had them fighting. Big monsters fighting. Why?
yeah.
What's the difference? Like, it's that, where it's like...
It is. Yeah. There's not a lot of critical thinking behind the decisions that get made.
It really doesn't seem so. So going back to this, making another one, it's like, ultimately, if I just heard they're making another one, that would be more likely to be bad news than good. Just because I don't trust them to know what made this movie work.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, either way.
If you have HBO Max, watch this movie. I would say do stuff like fold laundry or like...
Or yeah, watch it with, do a watch party with people.
I don't even know, because watch parties... We had a watch party. We mostly just talked about other things until
the fighting happened. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not really a watch party. It is and it isn't. Yeah, I guess a watch party where you're not all
Well, yeah,
taking it too seriously,
right,
to not talk during it.
Yeah, you wouldn't. I'm saying it's not a movie you need to necessarily hear what's going on.
No, yeah, definitely don't watch it like the first time I watched it, because the first time I watched it, it was just sitting in a room quietly, and it was this is pulling teeth most of the movie.
I did the same thing, and I had a grand old time. So I guess it just depends on how much the movie's working for you.
Yeah, I enjoyed the scenes where they fought, but again, anytime a human's on screen, it's nothing. It's like a void.
Yeah, I had the benefit of one of the movies I watched a bunch as a kid was Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, specifically.
Right.
So when this movie starts and Godzilla attacks his facility, we don't know why he was attacking, and then they see this big energy core or something, and they're all like, oh, Godzilla must be attacking it for some reason. They're doing something to provoke him. That clicked in my head. I was like, oh, I bet they're building Mechagodzilla. So I had the benefit of sitting there being excited for Mechagodzilla to show up.
Right.
I was like, I know he's coming.
Right. Yeah, that's solid.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say if you're not into giant monsters fighting, if you're not...
Yeah, if you wouldn't watch this anyway.
You wouldn't watch this.
Why would you watch this?
It's hard because if the other movies... I was going to say if the other movies didn't do anything for you, but you, as you said, the other movies didn't do anything for you.
No, I didn't.
In this movie, you enjoyed this movie.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily that. I don't know. I do think the reviews are inflated, but for an understandable reason. That's the thing. All right, you know what it is? If you are fucking... if you gotten your shots and you're going out to the theaters and you want to see something, this is perfect.
This is a perfect thing to see, yeah. It's big, dumb, fun. It's... Yeah.
Although I would still argue it's still too boring, even for that.
For stretches, but you're going to leave the theater bouncing on your toes, because it ends with that fucking handicap match between the three monsters.
Yeah, that shit's
it is
great.
So great. Yeah.
We haven't brought up, I also love that Mechagodzilla gets possessed by the ghost of
old King Ghidorah.
That's the shit where it was yes, thank you.
Yes.
Like, you know what? This movie could have been dead serious, or the series could have been dead serious if they kept pulling shit like that.
Yeah, if they did stuff that was over the top.
Yeah, that's the meta shit that it's like if they understand what they're doing. If they're trying, like, this is a tall order, but like trying to be campy in a way that isn't overly self-aware would have been a good idea for this series.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's hard to do, but yeah.
You just do ridiculous things and you do them earnestly. Such as, I mean, I would say the way they do Mechagodzilla is pretty earnest.
Yeah.
And maybe I need to go back on the idea of like, don't have characters too funny, but like, you're still going to make them interesting somehow. Yeah. Or you make them over the top serious to a point that it's funny.
Yeah.
I don't know how. Yeah. It's a fine line to walk.
Yeah. It's tough to pull off, but
yeah,
I think, yeah, man, that fucking robot. Holy shit.
Fucking robot.
Oh man. I stood up. It's just like, yeah, get that big stupid robot in there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That robot. Jesus Christ.
Building this fucking robot.
Why would they make it look like Godzilla?
'Cause it's cool.
Yeah.
Specifically to flex on Godzilla.
Yeah.
They're just pissing in his face with that one.
They really are. They're like, we don't just want to assassinate Godzilla, but we want to assassinate him with a creature that looks just like him.
Right, with his exact double, with his robot brother.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Like that is really mean, right?
Yeah.
Like someone tried to kill me and they just made a robot version
they
of me.
sent a
to
Terminator and it just looks like you.
Yeah, that's really fucked
That
up.
would be haunting final few moments.
Incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, all right. I think that's a sode.
Yeah, I think that's a sode. Hey, thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about our Patreon. Patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. If you go on there, if you type, you type those words. We have exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman and Fox Mulder is a Maniac.
Woo!
We watch movies every Friday night with our patrons.
We sure do.
For example, we watched this movie.
We did.
What else do we watch? Desperado,
and then the animated Mortal Kombat movie.
Oh, yeah. See, this is what I'll say, is the best movie that night was the animated Mortal Kombat movie.
The animated Mortal Kombat movie rips.
Yeah.
That movie's sweet.
I would argue that this was, I mean, because the other movie's Desperado.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was the least good movie we watched.
Yeah, but they were all fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that they're all pretty close to each other. Although I would still say, yeah, I don't know, whatever. You just listen to the review.
Yeah.
You can also have custom We Just Watched episodes if you go on there.
That's true. Yeah, somebody hired us to talk about You Only Live Twice this past week.
They sure did. Now that's a movie.
That's a film. What a motion picture. We also have a store, tpublic.com/store/gamefullyunemployed, where you can get t-shirts, masks, mugs, stickers, posters, all kinds of things. Possibly a robot clone of yourself.
Ooh, can we sell those?
I mean, until somebody stops us.
Yeah, like the government.
Yeah,